think
Obama might be 100 pounds lighter than
they're going to need him
Jokic.
just to spare him some time because if Anthony Davis gets in foul trouble, what happens to the Lakers?
Understood. Well, what happens if all of a sudden we're looking at Mo Bamba matched up against Nikola Jokic? I don't want to think about what happens to the Lakers. Well, let me bring Woj into the conversation on this front. We all understand what we're looking at here, Woj, with a West Conference final that begins tomorrow night. The game's on ESPN and ABC. What are the things that you have in your mind as we prepare for our coverage of the series?
Green, I want to disagree with you on something you said about the Nuggets, that they're not aesthetic. Made
the point with us that between Darvin Ham and Rob Pelinka, those two guys deserve enormous credit for the Lakers going from where they were to where they are. But this next step will be a doozy. So I'm asking you first, Vince Carter, how do the Lakers win this series? If we're sitting here in 2 weeks and we're talking about LeBron back in the finals, how will we be saying he did it?
Anthony Davis winning his matchup, because I think if he wins his matchup, everything else opens up because he's going to, have to do it on the offensive end, but he's going to have to do it on the defensive end. He's going to have to score points as well as defend and not shut him down, but contain. Whatever Jokic is averaging, he can't hit his averages. That's just the reality. Oh, and he has to stay healthy.
Our buddy Dan Patrick always says, you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. And I don't even know what containing Jokic would actually mean.
Not a triple-double.
Not a triple-double.
Average a triple-double in the series.
We'll know it when we see it, I suppose. How about it? How do the Lakers win this?
Yeah, I completely agree with VC. I mean, I think LeBron is going to be LeBron. I think LeBron will give you a LeBron performance like Mike Malone, who's been a basketball lifer. His father obviously was a great coach. And Mike Malone, exactly, you know who I'm talking about. This guy, and he bled through the early years with this group. So there's one guy that we'll get to know.
Let's see what they're able to do. Let's put the pick bars up on the screen. We have all made our picks on this series, and let's see. This
sweep.
Well, this just guarantees the Lakers are going to win. I mean, if there's one thing that I've come to learn over the many years is that whenever we all have the same logo up on the screen, we're never all right.
Kiss of death.
So we'll see what winds up happening. That is the truth. That collection that we just named, Steph and Clay and Draymond and Steve Kerr and Bob Myers, as Woj pointed out, I mean, they put together one of the great runs in the history of the sport. But the reality is all these things come for us in our minds because that team just broke up when they won a championship. Usually you get to see these great teams lose. Do you think we have seen the last of these Warriors on top?
I do, but hearing Draymond Green say that tells me that he wants to resign. Now, he said he would love to stay, but of course, money talks. And will he get what? That's what it's about. It starts there, because if he leaves, then it's over, because he was such a key part of that. He was a glue piece. He was obviously a lightning rod so many different times, but in a positive.
Jokic are different players, certainly, but you hear a lot of the same things about Duncan then that you do with Jokic now. They are an incredible team to watch play basketball. Jokic's passing ability, he's revolutionized the center position in this league, really playing a point center. And when Michael Malone in Denver really put the ball in his hands, he passes in a way that very few bigs ever have. He may be as good of a passing big man as we've seen, and it's been contagious with how unselfish this Denver team is. I am mesmerized watching Nikola Jokic play basketball, and I think people who are going to lock in now on potentially a 5 or 6 or a 7-game series with the Lakers and Nuggets, I think they're going to feel the same way. I bet Allen and Vince love watching that team play. Those are two basketball aficionados, and I just think, listen, when Jokic is on, you can't take your eyes off of him.
I think that's fair. Maybe I should have put it in a different way. By aesthetically pleasing, I mean, I liked watching Vince Carter fly and slow dunks.
What we showed in that highlight package was layups. Vince was throwing it down. Now, the Spurs comparison is great because you know what? I think the biggest star starts with Bob Myers, and then to Steve Kerr. If he sees Bob Myers, but does Steve Kerr kind of feel like, all right, well, I've kind of done my time here, and maybe hand the reins over to Kenny Atkinson or somebody else. So I think it does start with Bob Myers, like Woj said. But Draymond saying what he said suggests that he plans on staying, which would mean the group would stay together.
Well, look, I mean, Steve Kerr is the one who said over the weekend, this group maxed out.
Yep.
We did everything we could do. This team wasn't good enough to win a championship. So are you bringing back the group that wasn't good enough to win a championship? They were expecting this year to get much more from young pieces, and it just didn't happen. Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman, who's not even there anymore. They were expecting those guys to help be the next iteration, plus Jordan Poole, and that was for lack of a better word, a complete disaster. What do you think about this dynasty in Golden State?
Bob Myers, I think, first and foremost, is the most important piece because he has put the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah.
Because I thought he was great.
Listen, they might still be able to cobble together a conference finals run. Maybe
Stay healthy. Phoenix will put something together around those two superstars. Be very interesting to see. And as Woj mentioned, the first piece that we will see fall one way or the other will be the man who put it all together. And that's the point tomorrow night for you in the NBA. LeBron and the Lakers are underdogs for the third straight series this postseason. Denver currently a 5.5-point favorite for tomorrow night's Game 1 at home. This, of course, is a rematch of the 2020 West Final when LA beat the Nuggets in 5 games. Okay, and so let's get into this here. Woj, I will start with you. How did the Lakers get here after starting the season 2-10?
Well, most importantly, Greeny, they finally got a healthy LeBron James and a healthy Anthony Davis together for a significant stretch. But at the trade deadline, the moves that the Lakers made to fortify the supporting cast around those two players.
Just move some pieces around, if you would. Jordan Poole, I think that's a decision they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with him.
What a mess
keep him or not,
that situation turned out to be. Woj, it's not a short answer, and I don't have that much time here, but generally speaking, people wondering, will they run this back for the core of this group? Do you believe we will see, you have reason to believe we will see them all together another year in Golden State?
Greeny, if they run this group back, you're looking at a $500 million payroll and luxury tax. Does Joe Lacob have the appetite to pay that for a team that might be a conference semifinal? That might be their max, a conference semifinal. But with the new collective bargaining agreement and how punitive this new CBA is for teams in that upper spending area, it really restricts your ability to make moves on a roster, to make, you can't use your exceptions. All of those things, the trade deadline, Jared Vanderbilt, this became a roster that all of a sudden built around those two players, had some versatility, had some depth. They brought in shooting. They allowed Austin Reeves to become a full-time starter, and you've seen him blossom under Darvin Ham. And just how about the work of Darvin Ham this season? I don't think it's been talked about enough. This is a coach who started 2-10, worked through a lot of adversity with this team in the locker room, held this thing together. And when Rob Pelinka brought in reinforcements for him, and again, got a healthy Davis and James, and you've seen the job that Ham has done in these playoffs against a Hall of Fame coach, certainly in Steve Kerr, Taylor Jenkins, who was a close friend of his, comes from that Mike Budenholzer tree in Milwaukee, where
they play at their pace. Anthony Davis, he's so athletic. He can start an offense. I mean, he can run the offense. He can get out and run. And that's going to be the challenge for Jokic, is getting back and finding him in transition. Now, the thing that is going to be difficult is defensively, Anthony Davis' ability to stretch the floor. Mm-hmm. is going to be the key, because when that paint is open, that's when now Reeves and Russell and all these guys and LeBron can get into the paint. But Anthony Davis has to be careful with foul trouble.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be the key to me, because Darvin Ham
has proven now he's one of them, and now he's in the conference final against Michael Malone and a really loaded Denver team that I think is peaked to finally break through and get to the finals. This is going to be a great, great series.
Yeah, we certainly hope so. Again, we'll have all the action for you on ESPN and ABC. So let's dive into where I think this thing ultimately gets decided, Vince. Nikola Jokic is the least celebrated all-time great player in the league because of where he plays and maybe because of the style he plays. It's not that pretty to watch. It's not like watching Vince Carter play in his prime. Let's put it that way. But to call it effective would be the understatement of the century. No one can do anything with this guy. But Anthony Davis can do things that almost no other big in the league can do either. So talk me through this matchup, Vince, because it feels to me like the series will be decided, as great as LeBron is, by the matchup of Jokic and AD.
So I'm going to start with Jokic. And the thing about Jokic is...
Correct.
And he finds a way because of his IQ. And
this is no longer a time to look.
that's going to wear him down trying to guard that big fella.
There's the concern about foul trouble, and then, I hate to even say it out loud, but with Davis, you're always concerned about him getting injured. If it's a little nick here, a little nick there, and the next thing you know, he can't go, and that's when they're really finished. But this feels like such an opportunity for Anthony Davis, doesn't it? There was a moment in time when he was the answer to the question, if you're starting an NBA franchise right now, and you could have any player in the league, people were saying Anthony Davis. No one is saying that now, but this feels like his chance. If he outplays Jokic in this series,
he's back.
And the Lakers go to the finals, Davis is back.
Yeah, he's back, right. And there was also a time where ESPN did a ranking that they do every year at the start of a season of the top 100 players in the league. He was number 2. LeBron James was number 1. Think about that also for a moment. But this is not like the bubble matchup, where they also had Dwight Howard coming off the bench.
Yep.
They also had JaVale McGee coming off the bench. A lot of bodies to throw at Jokic to wear him down. As we saw with DeAndre Ayton in the previous series, Jokic wore Ayton down. And that